Oh man, the angel wings. I remember I got these for 40 world locks. I wonder how much they are today. How? A pair of wings I bought 12 years ago have turned from 40 to 1,650 world locks in value. That's an increase of 4,025%. Surely something is wrong here. Sadly it's not, and this applies to so many items in Growtopia. The devil wings cost 115 diamond locks now, or 11,500 world locks if you will. Oh my god, can you shut up? These prices are absolutely outrageous. But how did the economy come to this point? To first understand the problem, we first need to understand what world locks really are. World locks, diamond locks and blue gem locks, they are Growtopia's real currency. 100 world locks makes a diamond lock, 100 diamond locks makes a blue gem lock. They're not just items, they are money. And unlike gems, the locks are tradable and they are used for pricing pretty much everything in this game. So this means the entire economy is depending on them being stable. But here's the problem, there's no limit to how many world locks can exist. And even worse, almost none of them get removed. Growtopia constantly produces and creates new world locks. But once a world lock is created, it never disappears. If you lock a world, it doesn't destroy it. Trading, vending machines, illegal gambling, nothing gets removed. The lock just keeps moving from player to player, and this means Growtopia is constantly printing money and never burning it. In real economics, this leads to one thing: inflation. When something gets removed from the economy, that's called a sink. And some people argue that Growtopia already has sinks. I mean, yeah, they are right. But here's the truth, most of them are not real sinks. Their first notable attempt to remove inflation was with Lucky. As noted by the Growtopia wiki, the main reason Lucky was added to the game was to tackle the issue with world lock inflation. Lucky is a traveling salesman with a rotating inventory. The twist, however, is that Lucky only exchanges his items for locks. The prices for the items he had in his inventory were actually pretty expensive, but 10 years later, this is dirt cheap. It's really funny to think that the Burning Eyes only cost 50 world locks, while this aura they added recently in 2023 costs 50,000 world locks. To me, this really demonstrates how little a world lock is worth nowadays. Lucky might have been a good idea originally, but it was simply too hard to keep up with the vast amounts of inflation. Maybe they could revamp Lucky to work better in today's economy. Unfortunately, I think it's too late. Now we're going to be talking about a gem sink, not a world lock sink, but I believe the item of the month had such a big impact on the economy. Let me explain why. When they first introduced the item of the month in 2017, it started off pretty peacefully. They did wings, they did scarves, they did horns, just some cool cosmetic items. But then they started doing some crazy stuff. The Royal Lock that muted everyone in the world so you couldn't speak, the Rayman's Fist that lets you break 3 blocks at once, the Mag Plant that collects blocks and seeds of your choosing, and not to forget the Grow Scan that shows you how many blocks and how many gems are in the world. I wouldn't say these items really are problematic, but the fact that they are locked behind an item of the month exclusive deal, that makes it a bit iffy. Because all of these items are pretty much pay to win in some sense, and they all had some exclusive feature that no other items had. This meant these prices continued to rise and the prices eventually ended up being so expensive. The fact I used to own this item but I sold it for like 10 diamond locks or something. But let's backtrack to the Mag Plant for a second because there's something we need to discuss. Let's talk about BFGs. BFG stands for Break for Gems, and it's a community-created way for players to earn gems faster than usual. In every BFG, there's the World Owner and the Breakers. The World Owner sets up the BFG world, and they use the Mag Plant 5000 to collect blocks and seeds placed into it. When Breakers place and break blocks, the owner keeps the seeds and the blocks, which they can later sell for profit. But why is this worth it for the Breakers? Well, the Breaker gets to keep the gems. So the owner provides the blocks and seeds, the Breaker provides the breaking labor, the Breaker also gets to keep the gems, and the owner keeps everything else from the Mag Plant. This creates a mutual benefit, but it also means a lot of gems gets created and enter the economy. Because BFG worlds rely on breaking cycles, some players try to exploit this with bots, macros and auto-breaking scripts to get the gems automatically without actually playing. And this issue actually got so widespread that Ubisoft had to respond with a public support article. Anyway, why does BFGs matter for Growtopia's economy? BFGs made it so much easier for players to earn gems quickly, and that multiplied how many world locks were being traded back into the economy. This created what many players describe as a currency generation pressure. Basically, there was too much money being generated, and that led to more inflation and economic imbalance. The black market. This is where all the shady business is going on. Gotta love them or hate them. Over the years, the black market prices have constantly been competing with Ubisoft's prices. Officially, items like the World Lock has to be earned through gameplay or bought directly with gems purchased through the store. Buying a World Lock costs gems, and that supports Ubisoft's revenue model. But on black market sites, players sometimes list World Locks and other types of items for lower real money prices than the equivalent store costs. This creates pressure on official prices because some players choose the cheaper external options over earning or buying them through the game. Sellers often accumulate items cheaply in-game and then externalize them for profits. This is usually what happens with the World Lock fees from illegal gambling worlds. Growtopia's business model relies on players buying gems with real money. And when players can obtain World Locks or premium currency off-game for less money, then Ubisoft loses potential revenue from the in-game purchases. The black market sites makes it harder for Ubisoft to have control over the economic balance and inflation. But hold on a second, does Ubisoft have the solution? Over the years, gems from in-app purchases were gradually increased during special events, such as the Player Appreciation Week. These changes made buying gems more lucrative as inflation slowly occurred. But one of the biggest turning points in Growtopia's economy was the flash sale update in May of 2025. These changes were told to be temporary and limited time, but they ended up staying permanently. Players were suddenly receiving over 10 times more value in gems and World Locks for the same price. Packs were buffed to give millions of gems and thousands of World Locks, far more than before. This meant huge amounts of new currency entered the game instantly and stayed. Some say it was to combat RMT or real money trading, others say it was to squeeze their player base of all their money before the game eventually shuts down. Well, here we are a year later and the game is still here, but it's safe to say that this had a big impact on the economy. When you put everything together, one thing becomes clear. Growtopia's economy didn't break because of one bad update, one event, or one mistake. Inflation was always inevitable. Seth and Amumu knew this, and Ubisoft knew it too. When Growtopia was acquired, the risks of an infinite player-driven currency were already well understood. The choice wasn't whether inflation would happen, it was whether to slow it down, monetize it, or redesign the system entirely. What followed was gem buffs, flash sales, and temporary sinks, tools that increase engagement and revenue, but it doesn't solve the underlying problem, because you can't permanently fix inflation in a system where money is infinite and never destroyed. You can delay it, and you can profit from it, but you can't stop it. That's why prices keep rising, that's why new players fall behind, and that's why Growtopia's economy feels increasingly disconnected from effort and time. Pixelworlds looked at Growtopia and learned a lot of things. Their introduction of Bytecoins with several sinks and a fee in the marketplace kept the currency pretty stable for a long time, but they also suffered in the end, though with other issues. The point is, this is a problem all MMOs eventually face. Unless Growtopia fundamentally changes how its currency works, it will only keep inflating, because in a game like this, inflation was never a possibility. It was always a certainty.